This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Gear. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Frontiersman Gear. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Frontiersman Gear, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another amazing episode of Talk is Sheep. Hana Erikson here, coming at you once again, and today I have a couple of the most incredible ladies joining me. I have Miss Jann Demaske, chair of One Campfire, joining me today as my co-host, and we have Amy Schaffer on as our guest today, and I am so excited to hear from Miss Amy. I just met you when we were down at Branded Rock Canyon during our chapter and affiliate summit this year, and I've heard some stories about you and decided we needed to get this lady on the podcast now that we've met in person. So welcome, Jann. Thank you for co-hosting this with me.
Absolutely.
And welcome,
I told
Amy.
Jeff that we were going to have Amy on, and he was so excited.
Oh, yeah.
We've known Amy for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, a long time. And we actually, Amy and I think we nailed it, that we met at Dallas Safari Club drinking wine. So that was that was a long time ago.
You know, some of the best conversations and ideas come from that.
Absolutely. And Amy has such a super cool background and family, and you know, the Wild Sheep Foundation family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's just like a I don't know, trailblazer.
It seems so, honestly.
I've been a lot of places and met a lot of amazing people, and it's led me down some super cool trails, if you want to put it that way. Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you've by the little bit of background research that I did when I was Instagram stalking you, it sounds like you've lived quite a full life.
Well, I always say I'm living the dream, you know. It's
yeah.
And the dream changes sometimes, and you just carry on with that. But yeah, just doing as much as I can. We only get one chance on the planet here, so we make 100%. The most. You know.
Amy, tell us about Branded Rock.
Yeah.
Hannah and I had wow, what an opportunity to spend the day there for the Wild Sheep Foundation Chapters and Affiliates Summit. And I don't know about you, Hannah, but I was blown away. I mean, I'd seen pictures, but I was just blown away.
Absolutely. Just an incredible place, really.
It is. And it's kept me here this is my 10th year. And, you know, with all the things that I like to do, it has to be something very special to keep me grounded, and this place does. But yeah, it's a beautiful property. It's a private ranch. We're here in Western Colorado, about an hour from Grand Junction. And the focus here is on wildlife and habitat, and having people come and spend some time here and reconnect with nature. And you kind of, you know, nailed it. It's a spectacular place, and pictures and videos just don't do it justice. And we've had more than, you know, a handful of clients come and they're like, you didn't tell us it was this beautiful. You know, it's hard to comprehend when you look at pictures what it is on the ground, because you really only spend about you're only on 3,000 acres here in the canyon, but we've got another 11,000 up on top of the mountain, and that's where I was today.
My
where
gosh.
All of our elk hunting habitat is, mule deer habitat. We've got turkeys, grouse. You know, it's primarily we're focusing kind of on a guest ranch situation to fill in some gaps, but we are a shooting program. So the main focus for the property, aside from the fall hunting, is we train hunters all the rest of the year for that one moment, you know, that one chance that you get to, you pull the trigger on your dream animal and you want to make sure you connect on it. That's what we do here. And that was the whole goal of this property. When the new owners purchased it, it was for, you know, their private ranch, and we really didn't know what they wanted to do. And he just said, well, it's too beautiful and too special of a place to make it so private that nobody else can be here. So what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we have here that we can utilize without building a bunch more infrastructure, without changing the landscape? How can we integrate our activities into what's already existing? And I said, in all of my travels, the one thing that I find that hunters fall short on is practicing for that moment.
Yes.
And being ready for anything, the wind, dust, and snow situations, the angles, the cross canyon, talking with your guide, understanding, how your guide is walking you into something, visually so that you can find it in your scope. I mean, all that comes full circle here with our precision shooting courses.
That's incredible. That sounds like something that I actually should probably sign myself up for.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So Amy, I don't know if you know that Hannah actually worked at a gun shop.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So she's quite accomplished. Very
then you need to come out here and be one of our guest shooters.
Oh,
that's what I thought too.
Don't tempt me with a gun.
I know. It was funny because when I had my sheep tag, I've hunted my whole life, but the sheep was in a position that I needed to be on my belly. Mm-hmm. Well, guess who'd never, I'd never done that before. So Jeff is, he's moving my pack, and I'm like, knock it off, but I had, I'd never hunted that way before. And so it took a minute. And of course, here I am with this beautiful sheep, 100, I think it was like 190 yards from me. And I'm dicking around and, give me standing up, sitting down, but I'd never, hunted that way. And so it was like, oh, this is a really great time to be practicing this, so thank goodness it worked out well. Right. But, looking back, it was like, wow, I was just, pretty inexperienced, even though I'd hunted my whole life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so cool
so much variability to the conditions that you're going to face when you're on a mountain hunt. I know my one and only stone sheep that I harvested, I had a little burnt off root wad to rest on that was rocking back and forth in the wind. You got to make it work. 440 yards ish was the first shot. I missed the second two shots, got him on the last shot, but made the first shot count. But 100%. Like, if you're not prepared for, just about anything that Mother Nature throws at you, nowadays, so there's $100,000 US you're throwing away on a stone sheep hunt.
Yes. Or more.
Yes.
Depending on where you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
Amy,
it's so you're the general manager of Branded Rock, and you're also a hunting guide there. And so now, after you have laid this all out for us, are you also a shooting instructor as well?
I am not. No. I leave that to my shooting instructors, who that's all they really focus on. They do guiding in the fall. Every one of our instructors, that's a little bit what sets us apart from some of the other shooting facilities, is our instructors are first and foremost hunters and guides who have perfected their skills and become the shooting instructor and being able to teach those skills to the participants. We don't have snipers that have been in combat, and while that is fantastic and those guys have a lot of information and a wealth of knowledge to share, it doesn't apply necessarily to what we're doing with hunting. They've got skill with going into battle, and these guys have skill with reading the wind, everything from reading the wind and animal movements. It's talking to your your client to guide and shooter spotter, and how to walk each other into something and follow up shots. I mean, it's very, very specific to hunting.
And even describing where an animal is.
Correct.
We're very big on 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, that kind of thing. But we've been with friends that, because Jeff and I have hunted so long together, I'll say 1 o'clock, we have our own, we've done it so much, but then you have somebody else in there and they're like, what are you talking about? Or maybe English isn't their first language.
Mm.
And so Jeff and I are talking about 1:00 and, you're with this, African PH and they're like, what does that even mean?
Absolutely.
So just like you said, talk to your guide,
Mhm.
all those communication skills that we can do, but we don't always do.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but yes, I'm not an instructor. I'll occasionally go to the ranges. We've had some clients that have come that were interested in learning more about shooting off a tripod for African animals, which I have done a lot of. So I jump in a little bit and, kind of give some scenarios that, here's what you're going to do when this happens, and lend some of my knowledge that way. But I leave these guys to do it really well. We all sit down and go over the course curriculum and say, that's great. Did you hear about this situation that so-and-so was in? Let's see if we can incorporate that into this course now, because that's something, not everybody thinks about happening. So it's just, compiling wealth. I just got a bunch of videos from one of my good friends who's an outfitter in Asia. And so we, show the kill videos or don't shoot scenarios for Marco Polo, Ibex,
Fascinating.
Markhor. So kind of all these situations where it's recreating for them before they go on the hunt. Here's what you're going to be faced with.
Yeah.
We even go so personalized as to when they complete their guest registration form is get their outfitter's information. We get the packing list from them. Talk to the outfitter and say, what are some situations that they're going to face? What's the average shot distance? What has been the biggest challenge in the past for your hunters, so that we can recreate that for them here before they go.
Amazing.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that you've heard from these outfitters then that the largest issue they're facing is their hunters not being able to make the shot. That's a big one. And it's not being able to make the shot, or, not knowing their gear, not knowing the capabilities of, the cartridge that they chose, not being able to be in improvised positions is a big one, For sure.
I mean, none of us are getting younger as we age, and you lose limberness, you lose agility, but you have to figure out how to, like Jann had to, move this pack. How do you do this and get set up for whatever is thrown at you for your setup?
Yeah.
Well, and I think so many times when you go to other countries, you don't have your own equipment. You don't have your own rifle. And so, it's even just shooting a couple of times beforehand. I think we were in Mozambique, and there was this beautiful old Cape buffalo. And I was really thinking about it. And Jeff said, he intrigues you. And I said, oh, he's old. He was dusty. He was just
had it all.
And he goes, what's holding you back? And I said, I have never shot your gun. And Jeff's a big guy. He's 6'5", and I just said, this is not a good time for me to learn on your gun. And, we hadn't done anything at the range, even when we got to camp and everything. And I was just like, not a chance, especially not with a Cape buffalo.
Yeah.
That was a good call on your part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you do have to know the equipment enough. And I've done a lot of traveling when I was doing videography, and a lot of times I would say, hey, instead of paying me a daily rate, can I shoot that? And it was with a hunter's rifle, and so thankfully the majority of my clients knew their firearms, and they knew the dope on it and that sort of thing. But you just you have to also know how to still get back down into the position, know the caliber. So how are you going to manage the recoil so you can still see that animal in the scope, after the first shot? Because that's what's so important, especially international. I'm sure Jann has experienced this, Hana, with your sheep too, is you have to be able to roll solo, because your guide or your outfitter may be looking somewhere else or see it and try to, go. But if you can't do it yourself, where you lay down, you get that animal in the crosshairs and dial it and know where the scenario when it takes off after you shoot it, you have to be able to follow up. You got to know where it hit the animal, and how to do a quick follow-up shot on them.
Absolutely. And you may not even have a guide that will know the capabilities of your firearm either.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
Or know your capabilities.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and I think
Sure, you run into that a lot.
yeah, I think oftentimes as gals, you kind of get that, you know, and I'm not a woman's liver, but there's a lot of discounting, you know, where it's like, oh, you know, can she really make this shot? And our daughter Maddie's really come across that, where, you know, especially when, you know, she was in like Tajikistan, Pakistan, where, you know, it's that, okay, that's a 400-yard shot. And she's like, I'm good. Yeah. And so there's that too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I find there's a lot of, you undersell yourself and then you over deliver.
Absolutely.
So
Amy,
go ahead, Jen.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
You were talking about being a videographer.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you do that?
So the backstory on that is, you know, I grew up watching like Marty Stauffer, Wild America, and National Geographic. I mean, back when we had like 2 channels.
Right.
And I just fell in love with that side of the wildlife and being able to show people that weren't able to go out into the wild, you know, what the experience was like. And so I think it was, 2002. I had a little bit of savings, no experience with a video camera, except for when I was on the national team and the Olympic team. We did video a lot of our rowing and our adventures. So I had a little handy cam. And so I took that, but I also took my savings and I went and bought the latest, greatest, best stuff, you know, which back then was still the little cartridge cassette DV tapes and batteries, and just said, you know, I'm going to go out and do this and try to make a living doing it. So I started a company called Frontier Outdoors and farmed myself out to hunters that my brother knew or that I knew, and said, hey, you know, I would love to go and you know, video your trip for personal memoirs. And well, had a lot of guys and gals sign me up and take me along on these adventures, and it was amazing. You know, just really a lot of just personal memoirs, a couple big wigs in the industry that I filmed for as well, but really focused on those very difficult, challenging hunts from Kyrgyzstan to Mongolia to British Columbia. I spent almost 2 months up there filming at one point for stone sheep, guys doing a grizzly with a bow, just all kinds of stuff.
Hannah, did you notice how she glossed over when she was on the Olympic team?
Yeah. Like,
when he was on when I was on the Olympic team.
No big deal. You know, I was just an Olympic athlete.
Yep.
This seems like another lifetime ago.
And what was your sport, Amy?
Rowing. So crew. I was in the big girls boat, the 8-person shell with a coxswain. But I also had rowed in the 4s and the pairs. But for the Olympics, it was the 8-person shell.
And was that because where you grew up, that was easily accessible?
How did you become a rower? Good question.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those situations where it was like, you know what, we'll just try something new. And it worked out. No, I actually went to Oregon State University. I came from a very small town, like 15 people in north central Oregon. High desert, the most water was in the cattle trough when it was filled. But I went over to Oregon State with the intention of playing basketball. That was really my sport. But I got there and learned politics right away because I didn't have a scholarship. I didn't come from anywhere that was of any importance. And so the coach literally said, you will be sitting bench because we have to play the girls that have the money and the sponsorships and all this. And I said, well, you know, I spent about half of my first semester as a freshman with the basketball team. And then I said, you know, I'm not going to sit bench and make somebody else better in practice. So I left that, and the rowing coaches found out, they'd seen me at freshman orientation in the summer and were like, hey, you're kind of tall. You should try rowing. And my dad actually had done crew when he was there in the 50s, and it was a PE activity. And so when the rowing coaches found out I was no longer doing basketball, they're like, you should just really come try rowing. And so I did, and turned out I was pretty good at it. So
I'd say.
But it took me 5 years going through Oregon State because of rowing. I missed a lot of labs. My degrees were in fisheries science and wildlife science, so 2 bachelors and then a minor in rangeland and public extension education, so like 4-H stuff. So I had to spend 5 years doing finishing up just because rowing took me away from so many of the spring classes.
And you grew up in the wildlife space.
Cutting everybody off here.
Yeah, I did. Our ranch in Oregon, again, the dry land side, the east side, north of Bend. We were raising cattle for a while, and then mainly wheat and barley, but all dry land. You just did feast or famine, depending on what you got for moisture that year. And so we hunted to supplement the table, the table fare with deer and elk and geese and chukars and Hungarian partridge. And, my dad grew up there. My family homesteaded there, and they said the deer weren't even there until the 50s. And the elk never even showed up until I was a freshman or sophomore in college. So, it really, everything just kind of started pouring in there following the trail of agriculture. So,
oh, man.
Yeah.
So, I heard somewhere along the line that you suffered from a broken neck, was it? Before you joined the Olympic team, is that correct?
So my back, my lower back.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in a rowing accident actually, and it fractured my L4 and then herniated 2 discs. And that was going into my end of my junior, going into my senior year. So I spent 6 months doing hard rehab. They wanted to put me under the knife, and I said, no surgeries. I'm 20 years old. I can't. So I just did a lot of water therapy, a lot of rehab, ended up finishing my senior year. And we did really well, came back and rode the stroke and the boat. And then I had a year off between that and going to national team that I had to finish my other classes. So I finished my 4 years as with the college rowing. So I had to just train on my own and go to a national team camp, and then immediately got onto the national team in 97. So,
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You're tough. You're a tough chick.
Well, farm kid.
Yeah, darn right.
What did my mom used to say? If it's not gushing blood and you haven't passed out, you'll be okay. We're not going to go to hospital.
Yeah, rub some dirt in it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've broken my tailbone a couple times getting bucked off horses out there, and you just get up and you walk home. I mean, there was no cell phones. There was no alternative. It was, you were tough and you survived or you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell that's carried you a long way in this lifetime.
It's not necessarily the smartest. It's that I think that's been the hardest for me, is knowing when to say when. And it's gotten me some pretty hairy situations where I shouldn't have gone that extra step, but because that's the extreme part of me,
yeah,
I did.
That's your nature. Push the
envelope.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those are stories I can't ever tell my parents about. My mom.
We'll keep those off the podcast then. I was going to dive right into those next.
He doesn't need to know.
So then, so did you kind of go straight out of your Olympic career, and is that when you delved into the world of videography? Is that how that went?
I actually got a job right after the Olympics with Colorado Parks and Wildlife and Colorado State University. We're doing a joint research project on sage grouse. And they hired me. I was the first technician in the area. We radio collared sage grouse. I mean, it was called a chicken mugger. It was a phenomenal job. I mean, who else gets paid to run around in the middle of nowhere, Northwest Colorado? I got to go, I'd get on these ranches that traditionally didn't like CPW, because they just had bad, interactions with them. And so I'd say, well, can I come? I'll come help you brand, or, we'll do some stuff. I'll help fix fence. And so I got onto properties that hadn't been, that they hadn't worked with Colorado Parks and Wildlife for 8 to 10 years because of the bad blood. So,
Amy, where were you at?
I was
Where
up
were
at
you?
Craig.
Okay.
Yeah, Craig, and then west of there, little town called Lay, and even out to Sunbeam. So yeah, did a lot in it's a very remote area. So I had a truck and a dog and a radio collar, and I'd get to fly in the plane with the pilots and find the birds that I couldn't find, and I was there for a little over a year. And then, me being me was like, oh, what else can I go do? So that was when I actually moved back out to Oregon, Washington area. And my brother was an outfitter up in British Columbia. And when I got the cameras, I went to him and I said, hey, can I come hang out and camp and film stuff and just enjoy, camp up there? And he said, sure. So
British Columbia would be a whole different world from what you were used to down there.
So I learned so much, and it's the fast track learning too.
Absolutely.
Because the swim, the do or die. I mean, I'd grown up around horses, but had never packed horses. It's such a different environment, and I loved it. I found out that the mountains are for me.
Yeah.
The flatlands are still beautiful, but I love the mountains. In fact, when I first flew to Colorado, we were training with the Olympics, and we went to Colorado Springs and did like a high altitude camp. And I don't know what it was, but from the minute I touched down in Colorado, it just felt like I needed to live here.
Yeah.
So I found my ways to get here.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely something about the pull of mountainous areas, in particular northern BC, the Yukon, Alaska. I'd imagine. I don't know if either of you have ever hunted in Alaska. Amy, have you?
Oh yeah, several times.
Of course you have. You've been everywhere.
It's gorgeous up there. But yeah, the mountains I think it's the beauty, but it's also the harshness of the environment, the unforgiving.
Absolutely.
That pushes you and like my brother used to say, he liked to get hunters and break them to the point where they didn't think they could go on.
That's sweet.
That's kind of mean. But, at the end of the day, what comes of that? When you push beyond what you thought was not possible before, you grow.
Absolutely.
Mentally, physically, you're a new person from what you were before. Kind of like what we do with the shooting courses here, is you take someone who has a little basic knowledge and you give them the gift of learning so much more, and they come away from that with new confidence, new abilities, the I can do this, kind of mentality.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
We all need that reminder from time to time.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, and you spend enough time on those remote northern hunts, be it for yourself or working for outfitters and those locations and experiencing those scenarios, and what your decisions do is they dictate the outcome of your life and the people around you in a lot of those situations, because it really is that intense. It really is that serious in a lot of those places. So either you're going to quit and you're going to leave because you can't handle it, or like you say, you're going to be molded. You're going to transform.
Yeah. Well, and good luck leaving, because the float plane ain't coming for 7 days.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, we've seen it. I'm sure you guys have too, but we've seen it all where, people just give up.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a horse give up on the trail, you shoot it. And it's like, well, I can't do that, but you're going to have to get your ass up. You can make it. It's another mile to camp. I'll pack your stuff. I'll carry everything, but you have to get there yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen it all. Jann, where's the toughest place you've hunted so far?
I haven't hunted a bunch internationally, which is, I've gone a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably my mountain goat. We were here in Colorado, and it was Mount Evans, whatever that's called now. I don't know what its new name is. But
it's just Evans. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah, it's like it's over 14,000 or no, what is it? I don't know. It's like between. It's like between.
It's a 14.
I think it is a 14er, and even if it's not, it's really high.
It is.
And I got altitude sickness.
Oh.
And I grew up in Colorado, and it was just one of those things. You go up, it's really steep. You go up fast, and but that was a hard hunt because I wasn't in great shape. But it was exactly what you said. One more step, one more step. And Jeff kept saying, just around the corner. I'm like, how many freaking corners does this mountain have? And that one was because it's tough to draw that tag. And, you can only, Hannah, it's in an area where there's a lot of tourists. So you can only hunt Monday through Friday. And it's a pretty short season. And, mountain goats are in these crazy mountains.
Yes.
And, and I think it was just one of those tests. Yeah. And it was, I think as gals, we do this a lot. We want to do one shot.
For sure.
That second shot is it's no harder. It's just mentally harder. And so it was that, take a breath, second shot, those kinds of things. So it was just a mountain goat hunt in Colorado, but it was pretty cool.
So you harvested your goat, did you?
I did. Yeah.
Good for you.
That's probably been 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and actually it's I had an either sex tag, beautiful nanny, but it's in the trophy room. And, I'll ask people which one's the nanny. And they're like, oh, she was just an old gal, which is for me, that's my sheep was the same way.
Yeah.
Old ram, chunk out of his horn, just that to me is that's the trophy,
The old guard warriors. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oftentimes even the one-horned ones, you're just like, man, he's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you've offered them a much kinder death than what they're going to receive in the wild, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And trophy, that I use that term sparingly, but we all know what it means for us. It's so different for each individual, because there's the faction that goes for the inches. There's the faction that goes for the experience. I don't care if it's got antlers. I'm just going to, shoot a doe. And then like Jann, and this is how I am now too, is it's got to be the oldest, gnarliest looking thing out there, something that is past its prime, or it's got, it's limping. It's just, it's a survivor. And then I also have a little bit of guilt going through there thinking, this thing has survived everything and I'm going to shoot it. But it's also, that's part of hunting, is learning your quarry and knowing how to give, I guess, homage to it later. And
I don't think if we always say if you aren't nervous, if you still don't get butterflies, you need to quit hunting, and, we pray over the animal, after it's gone. And, because it is what a beautiful thing that they've, that they've given us. And, I know you guys are the same way, but, we eat everything we shoot.
Yeah.
And, there have been times when we were in Africa that you didn't get any of the meat just because, the meat belongs to the tribe. And so they get it first and you might not get any of it. Our very first time we were in Namibia and they served pork chops and we were like, what's with the pork chops?
Bring out the camera.
Yeah. And they said, we don't get any meat until the village has their fill. And so Maddie and Jeff both shot an elephant on that trip.
Wow.
And it wasn't until the village had both elephants that they had met their fill. And so that was pretty, that was really eye-opening for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was, and Maddie got the chance to go to the meat shack and distribute the meat. And it was super cool. Widows and orphans first.
Right. It's
Yeah.
great.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. But
Very cool.
like you guys, that's what we fill our freezer with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hunters provide not only to ourselves, but to society. There's in 2020, we had, when COVID hit and people weren't allowed to go to the stores. And I mean, protein was a prize back then. We literally were giving away stock from our ranch freezers to the locals who were like, we haven't had meat in, a month and we've got kids. And I'm like, how much do you need? We're just going to run it down to you and meet you and, give it away. And my daughter and I give, wild game for presents for Christmas and gifts. And, what better than meat, and harvested from the land. And I think that's one of my questions for you ladies is how do you navigate in the world that views hunters as murderers or as the negative vibe? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's no doubt.
It's hard for hunters in general, but women, we're supposed to be the nurturers. We're supposed to be the kinder, gentler. How dare you kill an animal? I know I've had that flung at me several times. So on how your response is.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah. Oh no, that like but believe it or not, I actually encountered those kind of discussions a fair bit when I was managing the gun store in Williams Lake, because we weren't only a gun store, we're an outdoor sporting goods store, so you're selling everything outdoorsy. So there was a lot of that topic of discussion, and I think definitely tried to approach it with maybe a female sense of compassion and understanding for the individuals that just really don't know the story behind this. And there was a lot of inviting people to come out hunting with me and experience it for themselves, because I think it is the case with so many different facets of life right now, and social media and the news, and you're fighting an uphill battle if you have any type of a conservative type of a stance. You're fighting narratives constantly, and the narrative towards and about hunters as being trophy hunters and murderers, and the list goes on and on. We're fighting an uphill battle with that narrative, and so I just don't see, for myself at the time, I didn't see any good way other than to say, hey, come out with me. You'll see what it's all about once you come out. There's no way you're going to listen to me unless you actually see it for yourself, because there's some pretty strong opinions to the negative, as you know.
I think it's really interesting the number of, especially women that hunt now for the organic nature. We never thought about that when we were kids. We were just like, well, if we don't have, deer, elk, or antelope, we don't have anything.
Absolutely.
And, that's usually the way that we've talked about it is this is our heritage. This is, when we were kids, it's what we did. We always said we did it for fun. But it wasn't really, it was the experience of it, and the hunting or the fishing was the necessity. But when we say that even today, when we talk about it being fun, it's the killing part of it is not the fun part. That's the, that's the necessity. And I always think it's interesting that people, think fishing is more acceptable than hunting. But think about it from a fish's perspective.
Right.
Fishing is pretty brutal.
You're not wrong.
Put you back.
But hunting is definitely kind of demonized. Today I was at a meeting for Colorado. We're working on an initiative to make hunting and fishing part of our Constitution, to make it a constitutional right. And so Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management and the International Order of Teddy Roosevelt, that was one of the things we talked about a lot was, how do you get that person in the middle of the road? We're never going to talk to the anti-hunter is never going to, change their mind. I truly believe that. But it's that middle of the road person. And sometimes it is just, massaging the narrative. And hate to give a shout out to one campfire.
You have to.
Yeah. So that's an initiative we have through Wild Sheep Foundation and Wild Sheep Society BC, where the entire, our whole goal is to hit that middle of the road person for them to just respect hunting. And it started out as hunting heritage, wasn't it, Hannah?
Yeah, it's before my time. It's before I came on with the Sheep Society. But yeah, that sounds right. Yep, our hunter heritage.
So, we talk a lot about, fishing and hunting and respect and, outdoors and how many people are outdoorsmen. And we actually did a video years ago, Vegan to Hunter. But this has been a long-term project and, there's no metrics to it, but it started when BC lost the grizzly bear hunt. And, it was kind of, and, in Colorado, the politics in Colorado. And so this is a pretty exciting initiative to make it a constitutional right. But one of the things we talked about a lot today was our heritage. And, and I know a smidgen about your heritage and what your dad did for, Oregon FNAWs. And so those are the kinds of stories I usually tell. But, there have only been one or two times where I'm just like, you know what, we just need to agree to disagree. This is what we do. And this is the way we were raised. Jeff was
absolutely
from Wisconsin. I grew up in Wyoming and, my grandma used to, throw us out of the house with a fishing pole. And you'd spend the whole day with that stupid worm on your pole and you might catch a fish and you might not,
Yeah, for sure. I know for myself too. So we do a lot of predator hunting. We've got cougar hounds, so we do a lot of bear hunting, cat hunting. Some of our friends have a predator permit here in central British Columbia, and so we deal with a lot of problem animals that are killing livestock, harming livestock, pets, humans even in some cases. So there's always a really fascinating discussion surrounding predator management and population control. And it's interesting when you start discussing predator-prey dynamics and even the dynamic between, say, as you both are probably aware, killing an old boar or harvesting an old boar, if you will, that actually is helping to increase your bear population because you're taking out an animal that is going to be systematically going along and killing cubs, whether or not he fathered those cubs. The same goes for a large tom cougar, right? Not necessarily that we want to be increasing our predator populations, but when you put it that way to somebody that really doesn't know one way or another, they start looking at it and they, oh, well, I want to see the cute little cubs survive. So yeah, you kill the big mean boar. And it's really that simple.
Yeah.
But it's an uphill battle. It's a discussion that needs to keep being had. And there's a lot to be said for, as you mentioned, Jann, focusing on, well, you're not getting any other source of meat that is, organic. As organic as our wild meat is and harvested as ethically. And, people don't understand what takes place at some of those feedlots and butchering facilities. And if you can educate them on that just a little bit, they might have a little bit more sympathy for what it is that we do and why we do it.
Oh, 100%. And I find out, the one question I ask people is, are you against hunting because of a biological reason? As far as you understand, hunting does fund the conservation efforts and it does fund like CPW's budget for all animals, non-game animals, everything. Are you against it because you've learned about some biology and model that I don't know about, or are you against hunting because it's just simply something that you couldn't personally do?
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. Everybody, even non-hunters have no problem picking up a hamburger. They don't know where it's come from, served at a restaurant. They'll never remember that animal. There's no, connection to it other than someone brought it out on a plate and they ordered it from a menu. And I said, where did that animal come from? Did you give it any kind of special treatment? Is there any spiritual connection to the land? Did you see how it was raised or how it was treated? And they can't answer that. They're like, well, no, but it's just meat. And I'm like, okay, well, it's just elk meat. Yeah. Yes, but you killed a wild animal. And I said, yes, and I know exactly where that animal lived. And the money that I spent on that license goes to create and continue better habitat and protection of their, protection of the animals and the species and just everything. And they have no idea about that. Literally, they have no clue that that's what is happening. They just thought, oh, I thought my taxpayer dollars paid for this. And I'm like, nope.
Nope, not here.
Maybe the wolves now.
I don't even remember what it was, but I was, I did went down the rabbit hole of social media and I was reading comments and someone said, why don't you just go to the grocery store like everybody else?
Right.
It's like, well, it doesn't just magically appear. There's not a cow, cow field somewhere where there's just cows growing and you just, pick them like a carrot or something.
Right.
There's a lot more to this than, and the money that a community gets, it's pretty amazing.
Well, and westernized societies are so spoiled because they're so used to someone else doing the work for them, and they just, they make money and spend it on those items, but there's no connection to where it came from anymore. Mm-hmm. And we really started noticing that, even in my dad's generation, pre-World War II, people still were connected. Everything was from the land. There was, smaller populations. There's more community. I really feel like that so much started happening when, people were moving away from farms and into the cities, and it wasn't their generation. It was the next generation and the next generation after that.
Yeah.
And I actually asked, my father and a couple of older gentlemen that had both been into World War II and fought in World War II. And I said, what's the difference now between young men that go to battle and come back with severe PTSD, severe trauma? What's the difference between when you guys went? I mean, the things that you saw in Normandy and were experienced in World War II, how did you come home from that? And they said, death was already a part of our livelihood. Mm. We killed our own food. We saw people die, on the ranch or on the farm or accidents. We already knew what death was, and we'd already caused death to either, through hunting or livestock. And they said, nowadays it's city boys going off to war, who have never experienced that sort of scenario. And that struck me as a chord. And the fun thing was I asked them all different times. It wasn't in a group, and they all had the same answer.
Wow,
fascinating.
That's interesting.
Back in the day, we killed our own animals.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew what the business end of the gun meant. And you look at the world today with all the crime and mass shootings, and there's no connection to humanity. There's no connection to the land. And I really think
the respect for life.
There's no respect for,
I think the three of us would all agree that, the death part of it it's, I think you used the word sacred, and we take it very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege, and,
Oh, there's no doubt about it. My least favorite part of the whole experience of hunting is watching the animal die. You hope that you kill it instantly. That's not something anybody wants to see.
we talk about, we call it the trophy room, and it's way more than the animals in there. It's the stories. It's so fun to walk the room with Jeff, because he can tell you the PH's name, or what they ate, or some funny story about somebody falling into the river, and so it's so much more. It's the experience. It's the it's I don't know if lifestyle is the right word, but
yep,
it is. We don't go to the beach.
It's culture. It's our culture.
It is our culture.
That's what angers me so much about, why we're having to fight so hard that we have to put it in the Constitution to retain the right to hunt, is, the destruction of the hunting culture and heritage, and the direct attack on that is what's happening everywhere. I mean, Oregon right now, I don't know if you guys have seen it out there, they're trying to put an initiative on the ballot to outlaw hunting. I mean, outlaw hunting, raising of animals for, meat. I mean, literally, I'm like, well, where are you guys going to get your food? Because it's not going to be from the farmer, because you can't even spray the crops anymore. So there's just, it's a loss of the culture of hunting is so important for even the non-hunters. And I wish that more people, like you said, Hannah, just go with me and see what we're doing, understand where it comes from and why all these wild animals are still out here. It's the hunters that protect them in the long run.
Yeah.
Killing them with kindness just ends up with a bunch of dead herds.
Yep.
But in the long run, it has to be managed by people who love and respect the animals and understand them. And that's the hunting community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Jann, that's a gap that you're trying to bridge with One Campfire, right? Working on it all the time.
And it's a social media program, because you think about even 10 years ago, everything was, you read the newspaper, you watched the news, and now it's social media. So that's been kind of an interesting shift.
And AI on top of that, which
that is not helping things.
Is so confusing for so many people, because a lot of them cannot differentiate or don't do the research to discover that that's completely false.
My girlfriend constantly sends me, I'm a big bird nerd, and she'll send me these pictures of like somebody holding an owl. I'm like, you realize that's AI? And recently it was a bald eagle, and I told her, I said, that's not, you have to realize that, yes, there's the very rare, bald eagle that's trained. It's been through probably was injured or something. And I'm like, that's not real. That's not. And she's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, pretty sure. Owls don't, we have owls around here in the trees. And you have to be so quiet and so still, just to listen to them. And once in a while you get to, but people, again, with the AI, they think, oh, well, aren't they just sitting outside on your, in the tree? No, that's not how it works. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what AI does in the next 5 years.
I laugh about thinking about, what the anti-hunters think is, I picture like Rambo, and we're out there just shooting everything up. And that's, what the antis must think actually happens, when reality, here we are spending 10 days backpack hunting to try to pursue one animal. And, it may not even be successful, but that's perception and reality,
And how many times do you go hours? And you're like, and I always think, and I swear every time we're hunting, I'm like, can you imagine how many animals are actually out in those trees just watching?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You're thinking, I know they're out there. Why? So you might go hours, days without seeing anything.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we think we're such great hunters, and they always have the upper hand. They're so much smarter than we are.
They are, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, ladies. If you have the wisdom to let our listeners know what it is that they can do to do their part to help bridge that gap, between the hunters and maybe, like you say, not necessarily the anti-hunters, because that's, extreme left, but the non-hunters, what it is that we can do. I understand entirely. Realistically, I cannot take everybody out hunting. It's just not going to happen. So what do you do?
And I think it's
What's
just
the answer?
being vocal, being vocal. And when we speak, we were all raised to speak with kindness, and be as patient as possible. Whatever the issue is. But I know sometimes I just shake my head and I'm thinking, how can you be so,
ignorant?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they are with a lot of their comments. They truly are. Not only ignorant in their thought process, but how they deal with people when discussing it.
Yeah, and uneducated, because they're listening strictly to the channels that cater to what their beliefs are. You have to always be willing to listen to someone else, whether you agree with what they are going to say or not. Helps us grow as humans, and understand and have that human component and human factor. But yeah, we have to stop being quiet. Like I'm sure, like Jann and Hana, we just want to be outside enjoying nature. We work really hard so we can have some time off, and we don't really want to go spend it with a bunch of other people. But it's like, so we instead of going out and about and spreading the word of hunting, we do it quietly, which is our nature. While the anti is out there screaming to the tops of their lungs from the highest mountain about how awful we are. It's time to I'm not going to, dip to their level, because what is it? Don't argue with an idiot. They'll beat you down and win with experience.
That's right.
But start talking about it. Start conversations. I mean, I actually made T-shirts that says, "Ask me about hunting." And I wear them when I go to the airport and I go international, and I have some really amazing conversations. Some are pretty vicious because I'm a woman. How can you're a murderer? But others is because I'm a woman. People come up and feel like they're able to talk to me. Or I'm not just some big dude out there, where they're calling me, "Oh, you must have a small penis." No, I have. And I know what a woman is. I'd be happy to discuss, hunting with you. What are your preconceptions? What do you want to know? And it opens up a lot of conversations, and we have to continue doing that. You guys raise so much amazing money with wild sheep, and do so many amazing projects, but it's only us that see it. No, they're not going to go buy a wild sheep magazine, when they're not into hunting. So we have to go out into the realm that's not familiar to us, down that trail that we've never been,
Well, and I think the other thing that we do ourselves a disservice as hunters and conservationists is, well, I'm a sheep hunter. Oh, I'm a bow hunter. Muzzle loader. Where the anti-hunters, they don't care. They don't. It was interesting. Maddie, our oldest daughter, went down to Panama City for a convention. What was it called? The site, can't tell you. Anyway, but it was all kinds of different conservationists. And what she found was the people who were opposed to hunting were all together. It didn't matter if they were conserving sea cucumbers or, it must have been a CITES convention. And so, you have to have a CITES permit for certain woods. Like if you're going to, like a zebra wood, you have to have a permit to bring that into the United States or into other countries. And so they were all, very much a team. And yet, it's like, well, I'm part of, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or Wild Sheep Foundation. We're kind of a bit elitist. Right. And it's like, how about we just say I'm a hunter, I'm a deer hunter, I'm a bird hunter, gun. It doesn't matter. And I think until we unite and collaborate, we have a bit of an uphill battle.
You're so right, because you see that on social media all the time. with the guys fighting with each other. Well, you shouldn't be, archery hunting sucks and I just hunt rifle. I'm like, unless you all start agreeing that hunting is our common goal, we're going to lose it. So stop being the 15 different teams and be one team against the other team, which is the antis and the non-hunting that want to take away the rights. But yeah, it's horrible on social media. I'm like, guys, be supportive. Stop tearing down.
Support each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And maybe that's what we need to do is we need to be more vocal and be more supportive. And it's going to take us gals to do that because that's our nature. I think that's just our,
bringing people together.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, we've experienced it here too in Canada all too recently with our Bill C-21, our gun control bill. It started out, of course, it didn't seem harmless and innocent to all of us hunters and those of us in the firearms industry. But to many people, it seemed innocent and harmless. And they thought, well, they're going to be going after things like, AK-47s. Well, AK-47s have been banned in Canada for decades. People didn't understand that. And it was, they're not going to come after our hunting rifles. So we don't need to sign this petition. And everybody that had these specific hunting rifles was saying exactly what you've just said. We need to band together. We all need to petition the government on this. We need to stand together and fight this, or we're going to lose all of our firearms rights. Next thing you know, they've banned specific shotguns. They've banned anything that's over a certain foot-pounds of energy. And the list goes on and on and on. And we couldn't actually band together and agree for long enough that we all needed to fight this on the same front. And now we're in the position that we're in where, oh my gosh, there are thousands of firearms on our Bill C-21 ban list. It's just unbelievable. So there's some foreshadowing for what's going to happen with our hunting community if we don't smarten up.
Oh. The thing is, that community is smart enough to know how to take things away from us. Because if they can't get the hunting banned outright, then they remove the ability to pursue.
Absolutely.
So that's what'll happen, and it won't stop with guns. I mean, the archery guys can laugh and poo-poo all you want, but they'll eventually make archery a weapon as well.
We were just in Croatia, and they were telling me about what it takes to get a hunting license and get a hunter safety card and this type of thing. And they said, it's illegal to have a bow. I was like, what? So archery hunting in Croatia it's against the law.
What?
It blew my mind.
But
so
why?
We're not in this. We're all in this together. But there's, we need to learn from these other countries. That's
just
it. We just
no common sense. No common sense whatsoever.
No
why are suppressors banned in Canada? There's no need for that.
Right? I'm going to throw it at you. I mean, there's no common.
Is it because we're going to be more silent when we go to overthrow the government? Is that what I don't get it. I don't do you really think this is what is going through people's minds? Anyways, big lack of common sense.
Our politicians are, they're not exactly people that spend a lot of time doing ordinary people things. So
it's so true. So true. Well, I'm sure between the three of us, we're going to get this figured out.
We're going to get it all figured out. We're going to collaborate. We're going to show them all how to do it.
You can bet we're not going to be silent. That I can yes, we will not go silent.
I don't believe either of you could be if you tried.
No,
not
anymore.
No, that's it exactly, Amy. When you said not anymore, you know what? It's kind of a luxury of age. It's I'm going to try and be kind and polite, but I'm not going to sit on my words anymore. I'm going to speak my mind, and so it is a bit of a luxury of age where it's like, oh, sorry, I forgot how to be politically correct.
Yeah, I saw, and I'm not going to be able to quote it right, but I saw, something on social media that said, I used to be, have hormones and patience and be quiet and, go about my daily duty. And now I have no hormones, no hormones, and no patience. So good fucking luck.
Yeah, good luck, man. Good luck.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Amy, I kind of want to divert this just a little bit for a moment here. I wanted to circle back on your stone sheep hunt in British Columbia. I wanted you to, if there's any big story to tell, our listeners would love to hear about your sheep hunting experiences in British Columbia, because obviously that's what we all live for.
Right. There's not really any big, crazy story with it. We got weathered in for several days, and you're sitting in your tent, and I was actually hunting with my brother, who was a dual citizen, and he was an outfitter up there, and an apprentice hunter. We, taking the horses in, and we were clear out in the middle of nowhere, and got weathered in. And so for 3 days, and the sad part is we had just seen, this band of rams, and then the weather moved in, and so you're laying there wondering which mountain range they're going to end up on when the storm finally clears. And when it finally cleared, the fog was still so low, but if you walked down to the next bench, you could actually see out in front of you. And we were packing up, and my brother wanted to go one way and do this. And I said, if that weather kept us laying down for 3 days, there's a distinct possibility that the sheep could still be laying down for 3. They had nothing to chase them off the mountain. I mean, it is rams. They're a bunch of lazy buggers. So we snuck down, and lo and behold, they were still on the same ridge as us, about half a mile down. And we made a pretty quick stalk, and I ended up doing prone.
Yep.
And shot it. We laid prone, and then it got up and moved. It caught wind and started moving. And so I had to stand up and run after it. And I freehand shot at 180 yards.
Good for you.
Hit the ram, and then ended up going over, and we went, and he was dying, but, we finished him off. But that was, you have to learn to adapt and overcome. And that was the moment. And then the work started, as it always does after the animal is down, and you realize how far away you are from base camp and the horses and everything else. But yeah, it took us a full day of hiking to get back there. I think this was the hunt. Yeah, we got back to camp, and one of the horses kicked me.
Oh.
I was walking around behind it, and had been picked on by another horse. And I walked behind it to, I had my hand next to it, because I've growing up with horses, you always walk close. And I'm wearing a black jacket, and it just saw the black, and that was the other mare that'd been picking on it. And it kicked me so hard that it tossed me 30 feet and knocked the wind out of me. And I laid there thinking, what have I just broken? We were worried about like ruptured spleen and stuff, just because of the impact and where it was and the bruising. And the plane couldn't get in there for a couple days. So we sat there wondering, and I'd swell up. Do I have internal bleeding going on? Am I just in pain? So that was luckily after the sheep was down, though.
Goodness, those bloody mares. Better off with geldings. Better off with geldings.
All I have at the string.
Us too.
All boys.
Yeah. Boys with no nuts. That's the way to go.
Yes. Super sweet. Still kind of crazy. The saying about horses is that they're either trying to commit suicide or homicide, just depends on the day.
I love that. Well, and for yourself, like you'd already been through a broken back, so what was a big bruise on the side of your body? No big deal.
Well, and honestly, that was not the part that scared me. It was the possibility of internal bleeding.
For sure.
Because
yeah.
Then that would really shut down my fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But made it, no problems. And I ended up, when my brother sold his area, I ended up buying 2 of those horses that I'd fallen in love with all those years up there.
Oh, cool.
And down to Colorado. So
very cool. So how many years did you spend in BC then before you finally were able to do your own stone sheep hunt? Were you filming for quite a long time and helping your brother before it got to that point where you could hunt your own ram?
Right. Yeah, I bounced around a lot. But I was up there with him, I think. So I started hunting with him in 2001, 2002, and would just go up there, every summer if I could, not for the whole summer because I was also trying to make a living.
Mm.
But I would film up there some and then do a lot of international. It wasn't until I was filming for a big group out of Texas, and we worked a deal. I went and did the stone sheep hunt, and we put that on video. So I filmed the whole thing, and we used that for part of the videography fees as well.
Very cool.
Nice.
Can we find any of those videos on YouTube, or are they lost to the archive somewhere?
Well, it's all Jack Brittingham.
Okay.
I was working for him at the time, and so they're all through his archives. I don't know if he's got anything online anymore. He used to have a bunch on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll have to look.
All of his stuff. So
Yeah, I think you can find his DVDs somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they're still in circulation. They were for a while.
My doll sheep is on video as well. It was the first all doll video that we did, and it was called Black Shale White Sheep, or White Sheep Black Shale.
Okay.
And out of Alaska with Rick French, and that was I filmed that one as well. And then we took a bunch of Rick's footage from his stuff over the years and his other hunters and compiled that into a video for him.
Very cool. And you're on it.
I'm on it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to look for that.
The range, yep.
Nice. Not that I'll probably ever get a chance to hunt there, but fuel the sheep hunting addiction with some videos.
All right. You never know. Yeah. If you want it bad enough, you'll get there.
Oh, for sure. No, I just keep putting in for our Tatch and Cheney draw every year, hoping that I'm going to get a doll ram that way, but no such luck. Jan, have you ever hunted BC?
I haven't.
Oh, you got to come up.
I have not.
It's gorgeous.
Been up a few times. Spent some time in Kamloops for a BC event, for a Wild Sheep BC event. That needs to be on my list.
It does, yeah. Tell Jeff that's where you're going next.
There you go. That'd be perfect.
It is very special. There's some amazing outfitters up in British Columbia and absolutely incredible places.
For sure. Yeah. Even if you're not going for sheep, come up for a moose hunt or an elk hunt or something like that. Just to see the country.
That's the thing is, and so many beautiful places all over.
Yeah.
Don't you just think about, wow, did I just see that? When you were talking, Amy, earlier, it's so rugged. But then all of a sudden there'll be this tree growing out of the rock.
Right.
And you're like, what? And I have, I don't even know how many pictures of like flowers just growing out of a rock. And Jeff's like, what are you doing now? And I'm like, did you see this great flower? I'm like, and he's like, you're supposed to be glassing for a flower. And I'm easily distracted.
But see, this is the beauty that people don't see when it comes to hunters, hey? Like you say, we're totally demonized, and here's Jan out photographing flowers.
I have this great picture from La Pomosa down in Coahuila, Mexico. And it's this beautiful yellow flower with a bee. And I was showing it to Jeff, and he said, when did you take that? And I said, this morning. And he said, where was that? And I was like, well, I was supposed to be glassing for desert sheep. And I got distracted by the bees. And he was just like, he said, was that when you were laying on the ground? And I said, yeah. He said, I thought you were getting tired. So you were just finding a new position to glass from. I'm like, no, I was finding a new position to take pictures of bees.
Right. Right.
World's worst hunter and fisherman, because I'm just so easily distracted.
Nature has a lot of amazing distractions.
It does, doesn't it? The birds.
But how many times? Yeah, how many times have you been hunting with Jeff somewhere? How many other tourists come along?
Very rarely.
None.
Very rarely. Yeah.
I go to the places where no one else has been. Some of the places I've been, I guarantee you we were the first one setting foot on it. And it's like, where is all the dollars from the tourism paying into this community?
Yeah.
It's only hunters that are doing it.
You're absolutely right.
That's I think the connection that people really don't completely understand with the hunting and how much money is generated for not just the animals like wild sheep or whatnot, but look at the dollars that are brought into communities. I mean, whether it's a trade show For the sheep show, whether it's taxidermy that you guys have done, the Africa, look at the dollars and the money that comes in and gives value to the animals and gives value to the communities that support the animals. It's truly incredible.
When we were just in Croatia, we were with this lovely man, Joseph. And by the time, we were there for, I think 10 days. And he, at the end, he was taking us to the airport and he said, do you realize that, yours and Jeff's trip, you affected 46 people.
Wow.
And I was like, and he said the cook, the, people that cleaned your room, he knew exactly how many people, our hunt had affected. And that was just the people that he knew. That didn't include, like I went to a little gift shop or, Jeff and I went for dinner. It didn't include those things. That was the number of people that were directly affected. And I thought, how cool is it that, that he knew that, because you had the guy that had the dogs. And again, the cook, the person that cleaned your room, was that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you guys for the summit, I mean, we had 16 staff that affected their lives in a very positive way, and we have that many working here, and that's because of hunting and shooting and not the anti-hunting tourism dollars. This is all hunters and conservationists and shooters that come up here.
Well, it was interesting. It used to be Division of Wildlife in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember when it went to Colorado Parks and Wildlife. But that was an interesting shift because then all of a sudden you had, it used to be the Parks Division, but once it went under, one umbrella, you had, game wardens who are now over just parks.
Right.
And, the amount, again, you took those hunting and fishing dollars and spread them out to the parks. And, people that enjoy the parks, bikers, hikers, that type of thing, they might pay for a parking pass. There's, some of the state parks have, entry fees, but nothing like, what hunters and fishermen put into the economy. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Oh, it's unparalleled. It really is. I know when I'm debating with individuals about this type of stuff, I like to make sure that I've got my facts and my figures straight and my sources, should I have to cite them, so that these individuals can go to these sources and cite them as well. And one very discouraging thing that I noticed, and again, this damn AI, I just did a quick Google search and punched in the dollar amount or percentage that hunters and anglers fund towards conservation in the United States. You wouldn't believe what this AI said. It said that 94% of conservation is not funded. 94% of the funds towards conservation do not come from hunters and anglers. We know that that's complete BS.
We know that that's wrong.
There's your task. There's your mission. Start educating these people, because you literally have an AI Google search that anybody would go on and access, filling their heads with this garbage.
Has no one ever seen the movies Terminator movies? I mean, then doesn't they know what's coming?
I didn't know where you were going with that. I'm like, where's you going with this?
You never know all the foreshadowing in the past that's coming to fruition.
Yeah, you guys are fighting an uphill battle. We are too, but you've got a substantially larger population down there to educate than we do about what's happening.
What's happening with the critter on the wall behind you up there these days?
Yeah.
Is anything opened up?
Yeah, no, there's no hope in sight for that. Obviously, Everybody keeps pushing for it, and I know there's been lots and lots of discussion, and the discussion gets shut down almost immediately by our current NDP government that gives us absolutely zero funding towards anything conservation and wildlife management related.
Yeah, so. And therein lies the challenge: is we can't let one thing slip.
Yes.
Because that one is the gateway drug into removal of all rights.
Absolutely.
We fought like hell and got the lion hunts, the ban of the lion hunt prevented here, but we lost the wolf. And so with them getting a foothold in Colorado with the wolves, it's just like, oh, we can do this.
You bet.
ever since that 2020 wolf thing, it's just been one barrage after another and sneaking it in under the cover of night even.
Yep.
So yeah, be ever vigilant for sure, and fight where you can. Go speak out. And this is for everybody that's listening to go to anything that you can that is involving protecting hunter rights. Share it, like it, fund it, whatever you can do. Show up, be heard, because inevitably it's the ones that do show up and speak the loudest are the ones that get heard.
Yep.
Well, it's our turn to be the loudmouths.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, when you look at Colorado Parks and Wildlife meetings, I went to one here in Loveland, Colorado, just down the road, and it was a big meeting, but we were definitely outnumbered because this very, very much pro wolf, pro lion, mountain lions, pro anything, and I mean they had us outnumbered 2-1, and but it's go to the meeting, write the letter. We must be vocal.
Yep.
And we can still be kind, but we must be vocal and state our opinions and vote appropriately. I don't know if it's like in Canada, but
You're absolutely right. Yeah, vote accordingly. 100%. I think like our typical voting ratio is something like 49% of eligible voters vote. It's like, maybe I'm misquoting, but it's really, really low. And a lot of it is probably hunters and anglers, because like you say, we're quiet and we just kind of sit back and we want to be left alone to do our own thing, out in our remote communities. And, we don't need to go to town and vote. Don't get me wrong, I vote every time, but I think that may be a lot of the case.
We tend to be very poor voters in the United States.
Yeah.
That was something we were talking about today is, even register to vote, getting out there to vote. And we make it so easy in the United States to vote.
Yep.
You can do mail-in ballots and you can, it's so much easier than it used to be.
Yep.
So there's really no excuse not to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think there's some, not in all cases for sure, but in some cases too, maybe our most vocal representatives in the hunting community in certain places are not always our best representatives. So, if we can have well-educated, well-spoken women like yourselves and men getting out there and spreading the word, people that can speak eloquently and have some common sense and some, good solid information to back up what it is they're saying, we need that. We need that very badly.
Yes. We do need that. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
But, well, ladies, this is actually not where I was expecting this conversation to go today.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I thought we were just going to sit here and listen to Amy Schaffer tell us hunting stories for an hour and a half.
Nope. You like how I bait and switched you on that one?
Instead of a gun,
that's awesome. Yep,
that just means we have to get you back on again. And
we'll do some campfire here sometime, and we'll talk then.
Yeah,
there you go. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, and I'll be your guest shooter that you met. I'm not going to forget that you said that.
You come on down, girl. Bring people with you, but come on down.
Okay, then deal. Me and Jann are coming.
There you go.
Deal.
Okay.
I'm in.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll do this again then. Campfire stories at Branded Rock Canyon to be continued.
We already got something in the works for next year. So
Ooh-wee. Okay.
I can't tell you what it is, but it's going to be amazing.
You shoot me a message later. Shh.
I will.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks,
ladies. Yeah. It's been lots of
so much fun.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks a lot, ladies. You guys have a good one. Thanks to everybody for listening.
All right. Bye.